Okay, so now we're going to pick it up with continuing with the layers. The next thing we're going to do, we ended it with this layer mask where I kept the blur in the background. And now we're going to do a series of adjustment layers, which you can choose if you go down to the bottom of the layers window. Down here it says create new fill or adjustment layer. The little half black, half white circle. If you click on that, you get a menu that you can scroll down. And the first thing we're going to select is the channel mixer. The channels are the different areas of red, green, and blue. RGB is red, green, and blue are the colors that are used in computer screen color. So every color that you see on the screen is a mixture of red, green, and blue. And what we're going to do is something weird at first. We're going to do this minus 100 for the red. Well, actually, we're going to click monochrome first to make it black and white. Minus 100 for red, 0 for green, and 200 plus 200. And my face looks like coal, but that's just where we're going to start. Because the light in the collodion wet plate Tintype, the light is very sensitive to blue. So we're going to start there and bring it up a little bit or a lot. We're going to bring this now. It's just a matter of kind of tweaking to make it look like an authentic wet plate collodion. The idea is that the blue is very sensitive. We want that hyper realistic sharpness, but we also want a kind of darker skin tone. So I guess that's about right. It's really about what your eye, what looks right to your eye. Okay, so that's the channel mixer. The next adjustment layer, and you'll notice that every time you do an adjustment layer, it adds a little layer with the adjustment. The next adjustment layer is to go to curves. And these are all kind of subtle adjustments. Kind of click in the middle here and kind of bring that up into the left or right, depending. You don't want it too light and you don't want it too dark. But these are all sort of flattening out the bright areas and the dark areas. So you don't want anything too bright and you don't want anything too dark. That's about right. And then the next adjustment layer will be levels. And the levels show you the white areas and black areas. We're going to bring the white areas down. So again, we're bringing the whites kind of down lower to give it less contrast. And the blacks we're going to bring up probably to about 10 or 12. So blacks are at about, let's say, 15. Whites, 225. The idea is that you don't want it super white on the end here. You want to cut the whites off before they get too bright, and you want to cut the blacks off before they get too dark. That's just the way that chemical process worked. And we're trying to get close to that. Okay, so we're kind of done with the adjustments, but the last thing we're going to add is a texture that I got from the internet. And basically, some people use textures from paper or things like that, but I have actually, and I'm going to attach it to the assignment. I'm just going to open this picture that I got. It's actually a vintage film texture, and I'm going to open this up in its own file, and I'm going to bring it into the other picture. So if I select all or Command A, and copy, which you know as Command C, and then you go over to your other picture and you paste Command V. And here is the film, vintage film texture. We're going to do Command T to transform it. And if you do Command T, that means that you get these handles around it. You want to grab it from the corner, you want to hold the Shift key, and you want to pull this out until it fills the screen. Now, I know it's on top of it right now and you can't see anything under it, but we're going to change that. So here's that vintage film. And then we're going to change the blend mode for this layer to, I believe, we're going to use multiply. Multiply is the blend mode. And we're going to change the opacity of that layer. We're going to make it go down to about 50 or so, because we don't want it to be too noticeable. Just a little bit of the scratches as if the plate had been handled. And then one thing I forgot actually down here in the adjustment layers, one more adjustment layer, which is a photo filter. And the photo filter, I'm going to choose the color, which is this orangey color. And what that does is it gives it a little bit of that warmed looking sort of sepia color. Now, I know there's been a lot of different layers that we've used. If you get confused, just kind of go back and just follow exactly what I did. I tried to show you where I was getting everything. And you can just rewind if you missed it, or you can ask me if you catch me during class. And that's your Tintype. The last thing you do is to go ahead and, first of all, save this by doing, you want to save the Photoshop file because you want to save these layers. So save as, you want it to save it as a Photoshop file where it says Format, Photoshop. PSD means Photoshop document. So you're going to save that, PSD. Okay, so now we have the Photoshop document with all the layers. And then we're going to save it as a JPEG. Because when you save a JPEG, that flattens all the layers and allows you to use it for all kinds of different purposes. So Photoshop file has all the layers in it, JPEG is flattened, and we're going to save that. I'm replacing it because I saved an older one. The image quality at maximum, everything else is fine. And there you go.